My name is Yusuf Zai Khan. I head the Appian practice at Insys Technologies. Uh, Today's session, we're going to talk about Appian guarantee, right? So in the morning, you heard Matt speaking about it, how Appian helps to translate an idea into a working application in just a span of 8 weeks, right? So we'll talk about that. And Insys Technologies, we have 100 plus people all certified, and we have global presence. And we have our solutions hosted on Appian Market Space. So these are the locations we have presence in. We are there in UK, US, Canada. So we operate in a global delivery model. So today's session, so if you analyze what Matt was talking about, Appian guarantee, in the span of 8 weeks, we deliver the code to production, right? So if you analyze what we do in the span of 8 weeks, right, fundamentally we'll end up doing four things. One, understanding the requirements. Then second thing is translating that to a working application, a code, doing the development. Third is testing it thoroughly, and fourth is pushing the code to production, right? So in the span of 8 weeks, these are the four fundamental aspects which involves. So last year, we introduced two solutions which handles the third and fourth aspect, which is testing and moving the code to production faster. So we introduced a test automation tool, without writing any Selenium scripting, right? So how you can automate Appian application testing process end to end. And then we also introduce our continuous delivery tool, which we call it IACD, Appian Continuous Delivery. That talks about how you can package the solution and move the builds to production more frequently. So today's session, we're going to talk about our tools that we have developed, which helps in the first two phases. That is, one is understanding the requirements. The second one is doing the development. So during the development phase, if you see the lead designers in the project, they spend most of their energies on reviewing the application developed by the team, right? So they'll have a standard code review checklist items. So they go through it and they see if the built application is up to the best practices, right? Is it following all the naming conventions? Are there any performance issues? Are there any security issues, right? So that is the aspect that the senior architects on the project, they spend most of their energies on. And we automated that. We call it our virtual lead designer. So the virtual lead designer, so we have a COE, Appian COE. So we spoke to all the senior architects, and we made a list of when one has to review an application, right, what are the aspects they look for, right? There are 100 things, out of which we have automated close to 70 so far, right? So this is our virtual lead designer. So there's the configuration screen, so you can set up your applications, you can set up the prefixes for your applications, you can activate, deactivate them. And once that is done, you go to issue configuration. It gives you the list of code review checklist, right? That checklist, you can see whichever is applicable to your application. So if a checklist item is not relevant to your application, you can uncheck it, right? And you can customize this as per your best practices, as per the naming conventions or standards that your company wants to follow across multiple applications, right? So once this setup is one time, so once this is done, so you can start a review without involving the architects to review your application. The way it works is you upload Appian application zip file into it. Yep. And then what it does is it introspects the Appian application. It introspects each and every object, and it gives you an exhaustive report of what is the status, what is the quality of your application, right? So once it is uploaded, there's a task which is created. You can see there are 27 issues found around security. In the process model configuration, there are 6 issues. There are 9 deviations to best practices. And it aligns well with the DevOps strategy, right? If your sprint is of 2 weeks, at the end of 2 weeks, you want to run the code review of your application. You can automate it. If everything looks good, your code is good to be promoted to next environment, right? So, and for the issue tracking purpose, there are various reports, right? It automatically tags by severity each issue, and you can mark them as resolved or pending, right? Your team can start fixing it, and you can monitor the progress of it right from here. So it's all automated, and it is integrated with our continuous delivery tool, which we built for Appian, right? And health check, right? As part of this code review process, you can also include to run health checks. And these are the various reports which are available, right? So this offloads some of the work that our lead designers do on the projects. And now I go back to this, the UI starter kit. So this is the most interesting part, right? So how do you understand the requirements from the business and translate that to a working application, right? So the UI starter kit. So the business teams, when we interact with them, so they're very comfortable explaining how they envision the system to be by drawing on a whiteboard, right? So something like this, right? They're very comfortable in doing it. So they may say, hey, I want a name, country, and a contact, and bunch of controls here, a text field and a drop-down, right? And usually what happens is we take that as a requirement, we convert them into user stories, and 2 weeks, once the sprint ends, more often people come and say, hey, this is not how I thought it would look like, right? So there is a difference in what they have envisioned to what they got at the end of the sprint, right? So we tried to bridge this gap by UI Starter Kit. The way it works is, how about capturing this, a whiteboard drawing, using a UI Starter Kit, take a picture of this, right, when the business teams are explaining how they want their UI to be, and upload it to a UI Starter Kit, right? And then let's see what happens. So this is the whiteboard drawing. You can upload that onto a UI Starter Kit. And we have used a machine learning model, which is a computer vision technique, to read this particular image. So it can be handwritten text, right? So once it is uploaded, you go back, you get a record there. Yeah, that's the request number 24. So that is the drawing which I have uploaded. It gives you a screenshot of how it's going to look like when it is implemented in Appian. So it's an image. You can store it in your repository or a Jira system. So right then and there in the session, you can show them that this is how it's going to look like in Appian. And for the developers to jumpstart the development, it also gives you the sale code, right? So the development team can copy-paste the sale code, and it gives you the structure. From there on, it's a starter kit, right? They can keep making changes and complete the UI. So with this, we have automated by means of UI starter kit. So we try to bridge the gap between what business teams are expecting versus what has been built in Appian. Second, during the development phase, we have automated the code review aspects. And we also automated the third aspect, which is test automation, right? So you don't have to write Selenium scripts. And you can supply manually written Excel sheets as an input to our iTest solution. It translates that into a Selenium script. And fourth, we have a IACD, which is our continuous delivery tool, which helps to promote the builds faster to production.